Hey everyone, how's it going? We got a 2022 SL55 AMG in the shop, and today we're going to be installing Autobahn Performance Films PPF on the hood, fenders, front bumper, mirrors, frame around the windshield, and the rocker panels. And I'm going to show you today, after this break, what sets us apart from everybody else. Come check it out. All right, so the first thing that we're gonna do when it's possible, we're gonna remove badging. And so I've already removed this Mercedes-Benz badge here. And you can see the reason we do this, one, especially on a white car, we want as little amount of seams as possible. And two, look at all this dirt that's in here. Now you think we just clean this dirt out, but without removing the badge, it doesn't always come off cleanly. All right, I'm gonna remove these fender vents. They're not actual vents, but I'm going to remove these fender vents here. They're held in with some tabs on the back of this fender, and that's going to give us a cleaner install. And again, we're going to get rid of the dirt, and you'll see an overlay right now while I'm talking. The other side has the dirt. I've already removed it, and you can see that video while I'm popping these out. All right, the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna remove this V8 Biturbo 4MATIC badge, and we already got brand new badges. Now that makes the installation a little bit more expensive because these are a couple $100 from Mercedes-Benz, but I promise you it's a much cleaner install than trying to retape all these individual letters back on exactly. And we remove this because when we install the fender, these are applied by hand usually, and so I've already measured this, and so I already know the answer, but this is about 1 centimeter from the top of the V to here, and it's pretty close to 1 centimeter on the other side, maybe 1 millimeter off or so. So this side is relatively level, but on the other side, I'm gonna show you, it's actually off. It's almost 1.5 centimeters on one side, and it's tilted down. So we're gonna reapply it, but we're gonna do a better job than they did at the factory. All right, so on this side, what we have, if you measure this, remember the other side was 1 centimeter. If you measure this, it's actually like a touch shy of 1 centimeter on the V, but it's about 1.25 centimeters on this side. If you can see, it's kind of angled down in the back. So this is from the factory, this was an issue. We're gonna fix that when we reinstall it. All right, a couple last points before we get to the install here is, you know, this hood is 63 inches, and there's many shops that will take a 60-inch piece and stretch it to fit. But we don't do that here. I stock every single size that's available pretty much on the market, everywhere from 12 inches all the way up to 72. And so we're gonna put a 72-inch roll on this. It's an oversized hood. And what that means is, and that's the difference between a different shop that might try to stretch that 60-inch roll to save money, is the film is not gonna be overtaxed. And that's gonna make it last longer. It's gonna have less issues grabbing the edges. It's gonna not thin the film out. If you think about it, if you stretch the film significantly, you're gonna thin out that film and decrease your rock protection. And it's also gonna decrease the chances of work marks in the film. Now, all of this stuff that we're doing, you know, you might think to yourself, oh, this is for a perfect install. There's no such thing as a perfect install. We just like to try to get as close as possible to a perfect install. And so the last thing you'll see me doing is prepping all the edges with this special solution, which removes any waxes or chemicals or anything from the surface that would prevent the film from sticking to the edge. All right, the next thing you see us doing here is spraying SB3 Decon on the car. And what that does is it loosens up iron particles that have embedded itself into the paint. And this is the only iron decon I've ever used. It smells good. And you'll see it'll start turning purple if it has iron. I don't know if you can see that on camera, Mike, but if you can, let's capture it for them. We're also gonna clay bar using this synthetic clay pad. And clay barring gets imperfections out of the paint in addition to the iron, dirt, and contaminants that have embedded themselves into the paint. I actually ended up switching to an aggressive clay because the mild or medium clay wasn't taking the imperfections out. What I'm using here is a product called F-Bomb by American Detailer Garage. And this is a multi-purpose cleaner that loosens dirt and debris. And I'm using it to prep the surface prior to hitting it with a foam cannon. This is kind of one of my last ditched efforts to try to get some additional debris off the car, especially in these wheel wells and crevices. All right, it's kind of our last line of defense here. We've got this little detailing brush, and once I've foam cannoned the car, I use the detailing brush on all these crevices, and then I hit it with a sponge, and then rinse it off, and then all that prep pays off because the insulation is that much better. Again, no insulation is ever perfect, but try to get as close as we can. And especially on white, you can see all of those imperfections if we don't do this. Things we do before we reassemble the car is we'll be using a heat gun. I've already used a hair dryer once on all the edges, make sure there's no excess water, dry out the edges. Then I'm going to come behind with a heat gun, and that's going to seal the edges in. That's not to say that an edge can never lift up and we never have to trim it back at the 2-week mark, but this cuts back on visits to me by using this. So this kind of seals that in. And this is really important because I try to get as close to the edge as possible to minimize seams. And so we want that edge to be completely sealed. So this Mercedes emblem goes right back in. Now, if you take a look, because of the way we pulled this emblem, we took that extra step, we pulled this emblem, there's literally no seam that's visible. It's all underneath the emblem. Gives you a cleaner install. You notice it's the same thing here. There's literally no edge that can collect dirt because it's all underneath this vent that we removed. All right, so remember the other side was crooked, or sorry, the original was crooked. So you notice how I've got our little template flush with the bottom of this. And that is 3 1/8, which is our marker that we set at the beginning. This is why we like the OEM badges. Voila, perfectly placed, better than the factory. All right, you see the lengths we take to get this vehicle's installation as near perfect as possible, and we would love to work with you to get your vehicle protected also.